Back here on HQ Spotlight, there's no off time in football. You might be out of it all, and if so, it's time to get to work making plans to better your team, finding new talent, some places finding new coaches, coordinators. It's just a never-ending cycle that keeps going round and round.
Job, which is not.
That is why we're sitting here right now. Actually, that's like, come July when there's baseball going on and not much else. Anywho. It's fine. Jenny Dell, Amanda Gare, Douzable and Pete Prisco. We are now going to talk about a couple teams in the NFC that are ready to get to work now that they're out of the wild card round, and it's time to kind of think about the future. So we're going to start with the Buccaneers. There were a lot of questions about how this team would do when Dave Canales moved on and Liam Cohen really stepped up. But it seems like they're missing some weapons. They might need some help at corner, linebacker. Pete, what does this team need to do?
Defense. I think when you look at it, and you can start at the linebacker position, we don't know if Levante David's going to play again. He didn't give any indication one way or the other. Usually does one-year deals. If he doesn't play, KJ Britt's probably gone as well. So they need to find linebackers who can run and be a big part of their defense. I think they also need to look at the safety position. Winfield was in and out of the lineup this year, didn't play as well when he was in there. He's a big foundational piece when he's healthy, but they need to get the other spot. And they also need to look at the cornerback position. They had injuries there this year. McCollum started off great, kind of tailed off at the end. Jamal Dean was in and out of the lineup. So I think you have to look to the defensive side of the ball. That's where they have to spend a lot of their assets in the offseason.
But they do need to look on the offensive side, too, because Chris Godwin is a free agent. What are they going to do with him?
Back.
You think they'll bring him back? So, because that's a big concern for me as well. Now, McMillan really looked good, and he looks like he could be a really good number 2. But I think Chris Godwin does so much. And then also Liam Cohen. They need to do whatever they can to keep him in the building for one more year now. They may lose him to a head coaching job, but I think Liam Cohen is a big concern with them potentially losing him this offseason.
Neither one of you mentioned Todd Bowles. Is his job okay?
Went to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Why are we?
I don't know. Look, I'm taking the internet.
Playoff coaches is out of control.
He's fine. He's
okay.
fine.
All right. He's fine. You mentioned free agents there. One of the biggest ones, or the biggest one, in the quarterback position, about to be Sam Darnold. The Vikings have to decide what to do with him. I've been assuming moving on from him, going back to J.J. McCarthy. Lige, you're tilting the head there. A couple teams that need
This is going to be an interesting story this offseason, Pete, because when you look at his body of work, it looks really good. Now, he struggled the last 2 games, and me and Pete talked about this the other day. When you look at that game this past weekend in the playoffs, that wasn't all on Sam Darnold. That offensive line got bludgeoned. Not many quarterbacks would have had a chance in that game versus the Los Angeles Rams. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, Pete, because they could potentially even use a transition tag, which I think is like around $35 million. The franchise tag is $41 million. Let's not forget, J.J. McCarthy, we haven't seen him. He's coming off injury, so
we saw them, one preseason game?
Yes.
Is that right?
That was
he had
it.
2 touchdown passes, but that's all.
And he looks skinny on the sideline, too,
if that was him, we still don't know if that was him.
Oh, we confirmed, but he does look really, really small.
He looks skinny.
And he's sending out cryptic
So
tweets.
my thing is, if you're Kevin O'Connell and you're able to get 14 wins with Sam Darnold, you might want to run it back. So it'll be interesting to see, do they maybe use a transition tag or maybe try to fleece him into a 1-year deal with a little bit less than $35 million?
I would try and bring him back, but I wouldn't bring him back at the price that I thought I would bring him back at a couple of weeks ago. I think the moment was too big for Sam Darnold. It wasn't all him, but the last 2 games he was not good. And so you have a decision to make. Do you tag him, keep him for a year, see what you have in McCarthy, and maybe if he doesn't play well, then you play McCarthy? Because I don't think you can give him a long-term contract now. I just don't think. I thought that McCarthy might be, you could get him. He was gettable in a trade market. If Darnold had played well in the postseason, it didn't work out that way. Now you can't give him the long-term contract. You have to keep McCarthy in your plan. So that's a concern. Here's the other thing. They have a first-round pick. They don't pick again until the 5th round. They traded a bunch of picks to go up and get Dallas Turner, who didn't work out. Now, he started flashing at the end of the year. He's going to be a part of their thing, but they need more draft picks as well. So they have some issues facing them, the Vikings do.
How much money do you think Sam Darnold lost in Week 18 in the wild card game?
Well, he was probably on his way to getting a contract for about $40 million
I would say $10 to $15 million probably a year.
At least.
Yeah.
No, not per year.
You don't think so?
I think somebody still would give him a contract for about $30 million for 3 years.
Like the Raiders, maybe?
Yeah. So I'd say probably 10
a year?
10 a year, maybe. Yeah, it's
tough.
Not good.
Life-changing money.
Man.
But he also has a body of work before this year that kind of leads you to believe that maybe you are what you are, as I like to say. Maybe that's who he is.
So a prove-it year coming up no matter what.
Without question.
Without a question. Okay, we're going to move on to the Packers right now. They're losing some top free agents too, guys like A.J. Dillon, Josh Myers, just to name a few. Where do the Packers need to kind of go and reinvent the wheel?
Well, I think you got to look at their secondary. You know, look, Alexander's got a huge cap number. They don't know, and he was hurt this year. You don't know if you're going to bring him back. Stokes didn't work out. They need to find a number one corner. They fixed the safety position last year. You know, they went out and got Xavier McKinney. They drafted Evan Williams. They fixed. Now they have to put the focus on the cornerback position to fix that. In a division with the Lions, who could throw the ball around, you got to fix that. You also got to look at the defensive line. They've had some issues on that defensive line. Kenny Clark didn't play as well this year. Lucas Van Ness didn't step up and do the things he needed to do. So I think you look at the back corner position and you look at the defensive line.
I think corner more specifically because we saw this team look totally different without Jair Alexander. And to Pete's point, a lot of people thought he would be traded last year because his cap number was so high. But I think the Packers realized he's a true alpha corner, and we need a guy like that. And they struggled without him this year. Also, me and Pete have talked about this too. This is not, quote unquote, what they need personnel-wise, but they need to figure out who they are on offense. That's a big question going into this season as well. You just paid Jordan Love a boatload of money, and the last 8 or 9 games of last season, he was one of the top quarterbacks in football. And this year, they were trying to, figure it out as the season went on. Is it going to be led by Josh Jacobs, or is it going to be led by Jordan Love? So that's something this brass needs to figure out. Who do they want to be on offense for the Green Bay Packers?
And here's another situation they could be involved in and should be involved in. T. Higgins. If T. Higgins hits the market, and here's why. Watson tore up his knee. You don't know when he's going to be back. Romeo Doubs had another concussion in that game last week, so you don't know how that's going to impact him. They need an alpha wide receiver, and I think if they have cap room, they do have cap room, that they can go out and get a young receiver to kind of let Jordan Love become Jordan Love.
Okay. A lot of decisions to be made for a lot of these teams. Too bad you guys are not the GMs.
We like this because I can play GM and he's my assistant GM.
Wait, I'm sorry. Luce, are you cool with that, or are you the GM?
No.
He's a player personnel guy.
I hired Leger. I was here long before Leger was here. I'm the GM.
I'm staying out of that.
He has seniority. I'll give him that.
That is true.
Seniority, we'll call it that.
Now go find me a good linebacker, would you?
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.